one of our favorite parts of Little Conversations today is we ask every expert to share a personal story, a 3 feet from gold story, a story where, you know, one time in your life you were going after something big, this big dream, this big vision, this big goal, and you seemed to hit this almost insurmountable wall. But through perseverance, maybe it was help from somebody, you came through and you realized that success and you succeeded at your goal.
Well, I do have a story. I'm not sure necessarily it was about chasing after this big dream, but to me it's just as powerful because maybe the dream was that I moved from Albuquerque and moved to the Silicon Valley area. And this was very end of 99, so it's beginning of 2000, which was the boom, absolute boom of the economy and Silicon Valley in particular. I was in the midst of that, which was so exciting. I mean, I felt like moving from Albuquerque to Silicon Valley was like going from Sleepy Hollow to the epicenter of the galaxy, and it was so extreme. And I had no idea how I was going to be able to get a job, and I did get a job. I got a job at an internet startup company. So for me, coming from being a financial coach and having a narrow perspective of my world with my own personal practice and moving into a startup company, it was a huge shift. So there are a lot of things I didn't know. I mean, I was not real skilled on internet at that time. I was not real skilled on the technology in general. And there were a number of things that I wasn't skilled at. So suddenly I get into this situation that is totally overwhelming for me. And one of my jobs was to be the trainer for the company on this new online accounting system. And the CEO came by one day, because I'm practicing and preparing for how I'm going to start training employees and training the public and customers. But I was very new at it, and I was still starting to learn it. And he called me in one day and said, okay, I want you to come into the boardroom and do a presentation for us, just for himself and I think the co-founder. I wasn't prepared. And suddenly I'm dealing with this keyboard that's a wireless keyboard, a wireless mouse, which I hadn't dealt with before. I didn't have my notes down at all at that point. The screen was over to my left. So I'm trying to maneuver, okay, notes, keyboard that's moving around, the mouse is all over the wall, and the screen over there. I did a horrible job. I mean, I will be the first to admit that. And soon after, he was telling everybody in a small company at that time, he was telling everyone, oh my God, Judy was just awful. She's terrible at this. And I was terrible at it. And I could have taken that and decided, you know, I'm a failure at this. I can't work in this valley. I can't work at a startup. I don't know how to do half of this stuff. What am I going to do? I could stop there and see it as a failure, or I could own who I am. And I know I can learn. I know it takes me a different style, a different pace. So I went into his room, and he was really a great guy. So that wasn't a problem. I said, I promise you, Rex, I will get this down. I'm going to learn it. And that's all I said. And over time, I practiced and I learned how to use the equipment. I learned what my script was. And it was, I don't know, weeks later or whatever it was. And I was actually starting to present in the boardroom to a lot of the employees, to the staff. And I was in the middle of my presentation, kind of going over everything about how our product works. And he happened to come in to the room in the middle of my presentation. And I remember him looking at me, practically his jaw dropped, being astounded at how I had totally transformed how I was. And I ultimately became the demo queen, because I go off to the trade shows and I do the big demonstrations on our product. It was a good thing I hung in there, because if I would have stopped when I was discouraged and feeling like a failure, I would never have learned that golden opportunity of what I'm capable of for myself and what I'm capable of, for the world around me and for people around me, because it enhanced, it showcased more about who I was. And that was a very, very powerful experience for me. And I had another experience when I was at another job where I would, and won't go into that story, but that was a similar thing where I was very bad in the beginning. It was a sales position, and the manager literally would be yelling at me and telling everyone how awful I was. And again, ultimately, I was ready to quit at that point. The circumstances didn't allow me to quit. At the end of that, again, fast forward here a number of months, and I became, the top salesperson and all those kinds of things. And again, it reminded me I was so ready to quit. and feeling like a failure in this whole sales field, but it proved to me again what I'm capable of. So this is not about going after a major goal or a major dream, but it's really about a different way of dealing with the true 3 feet from gold stories to some extent. So that's one.
You know what? Thank you. And you know what? If you could share that second story with us, I'd love to hear it. And I'm sure everybody viewing would love to hear it as well.
So in Silicon Valley, I'm still there, and this is around, I think, 2008. And by this time, of course, websites are pretty prominent for most companies. And I had some financial situation going on where I desperately needed a job very quickly. And I was not doing my practice as a financial counselor at that time. I was working at different jobs. I got a job at Valley Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages selling phone book advertising in the middle, in the heart of Silicon Valley to businesses. I mean, that was crazy. But there I was selling advertising, and I was very, very new at it. I mean, I've done some sales in the past, but this was heavy duty learning of sales. And we were all required to go out there and give them these formulas as to the different types of amounts for different ads. And it was math, and you think I'd be great at math, but I'm not great at picking up math right away either. So, I was getting confused because it's all new, all the different formulas I had to learn. And this new manager, she would just look at me and say how terrible I was. I couldn't pick it up. I wasn't getting my sales done right. And she would just say, look at me. What did I just say? What did I just say to you? Repeat to me what I said. I mean, I'm an adult woman with lots of experience, and I'm being treated like this child in the whole staff. And she would actually come up to me and start telling me how bad I was, what I was doing wrong, why wasn't I learning fast enough, why wasn't I doing this right. And the people on my team, I mean, they were all trying to protect me. they were trying to distract her by getting into other things, just pull her away from me. And she was quite mean. And anyone would have quit. I mean, a lot of people were just surprised that I even hung in there the way she was treating me. But from my perspective, I really believe in an inner growth and inner learning. And in my mind, I did this little mantra. Okay, this is my Buddha. This is my Buddha. I'm here to learn. Don't blow up. Don't react. Stay in calm response and determine how can I learn from all this, which I did. Over time, I learned what I needed to learn, and I'm good with people. And I got out there, and in the midst of this crazy world, financially, business-wise, I was able to get people to buy ads in the Valley Yellow Pages. Ultimately, she started bragging on me. She started telling everybody how great her team was, and I was the star salesperson on her team. And it was such an interesting victory for me. And we actually became, I can't say friends, but we had a very good, healthy, professional relationship after that. I think we needed a little intervening from other people who would be talking about us to each other. And I did admire her as a manager, and she did admire me as an employee and my skill set. But it wasn't meshing in the beginning. But it was beautiful to see how ultimately it worked for all of us. And again, it was that same valuable message for me to just hang in there, even when I want to quit, even when it seems horrible. Some silver lining is going to come out of this adversity, which it clearly did. And it was more of an ownership of what I'm capable of one more time. So that it's a little bit different, but that's the experience that was powerful for me, definitely around adversity.